everyone, and welcome to 1923 Main Street.
Home of the Daddy-Daughter Disney Travel Podcast. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bellabraddock.
And I'm Amelia Bellabraddock. And today, we're going to be talking about how much time you should spend in the Disney parks on your vacation and what should you do there.
Yeah, it seems like a silly question, but we talk a lot about doing things outside the parks and so on. So the question really is, how much time should you allot to visiting the parks?
And I know what you're thinking, 100%. But apparently that's wrong. So let's hear what you have to say.
And actually, I want to say something up front. Since you just said 100%, it just reminded me of something we have to share. This is our 99th episode of 1923 Main Street. So thank you for coming along with us on this journey. And next week is our 100th episode. And for that 100th episode, we are going to be changing things up with the podcast. So we'll tell you more about that at the end of the show. So now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. How much time should you spend in a Disney park? Now, let me ask you this question, since this episode was your idea.
Yes, all of the good ones are.
Is the answer different for a first-time or novice visitor versus a frequent visitor?
No.
And let's unfortunately disclude local travelers. So if you're from Orlando or Anaheim or something like that, and you are fortunate enough to have quick and easy access to the parks, you are a lucky duck in a different category. We're talking about those of us who have to travel and stay in resort hotels.
Yeah, well, we can include.
We're there for a week.
Yeah, we can include you if you come and stay in a resort hotel.
Fair enough. This is for vacationers who spend X number of days at a Disney resort. How much time of each of those, let's say 7 days, should you spend in a park?
Yeah, or even if you're going to the surrounding areas and you're just popping by at Disney, how much time should you spend there and what should you do in the little time you have?
So do you have an easy answer to this question?
For me personally, it's as much as possible as you can without feeling like burnt out or as if the parks aren't fun for you anymore. I think you should try to experience them as much as possible to still have a good time on your vacation.
Okay, so I have a different answer, but I want to explore what you just said more. Let's say you're someone who can really, when we talked about our Disney travel DNA, let's say you are someone who can slam the parks and you won't be tired staying there all day. You would say if you're on a Disney vacation, you should do the parks all day, every day?
Yes.
Oh, I disagree.
What do you mean you disagree?
I'm sorry, I disagree, because there's so much more to do at Walt Disney World and even Disneyland. Not as much in the direct vicinity, but still other things to do. So the answer will vary. That's true. That's fair. But if you're a first-time visitor, I would say, from my experience, I would not spend more than 5 hours in a park at a time.
Yeah. Also, I'm technically considering Disney Springs as kind of an honorary park at this point because it's one of the big Disney.
Yeah, but it's not really a park. It's not paid and that sort of thing.
The other things you could do, a lot of the things you talk about are sort of different little activities. Even water parks are bigger than but there's bike riding and there's a bunch of other small stuff. But I'm talking about more of the big things that everyone likes to hit while they're there every single time.
Yeah. So
how much time should you spend on them?
So you're going for a week. You're going to go to a park every day, at least one. We're going to assume that for the average traveler who buys a 7-day pass for a 7-day vacation. But how much of each day should be allotted to the parks? That's really what we're talking about. So you're saying as much as you can handle.
I'm also just jealous of anyone who gets to stay in the parks for longer than 30 minutes at this point.
Well, things are getting a little bit back to normal, fingers crossed. But let's try to answer this question if you're a new traveler. I think there's a balance between park time and non-park time. And I think that too many travelers who don't really know everything about Disney World, and it is overwhelming if you're not a frequent traveler, first of all, really don't understand the parks as much as we do because we go a lot, but they can now with the help of Genie.
Yes.
But also they don't understand what else there is to do outside the park. So the challenge is, and the question we're trying to answer for everyone, based on our experiences, is how much of a day should be allotted to parks and how much of a day should be allotted to other things outside the parks.
And even that includes like just resting in your hotel, because I know that there is a lot of other thing that is just relaxing, which you also might want to do on a Disney vacation. But how much of it is too much when you're actually trying to do things that you can't do at home?
So I would say for me,
Explain that terribly.
I sort of get what you mean. But I would say for me, I always subscribe to, no matter if you have Genie Plus or any of that stuff, get to the parks when they open. So I think every day should be a park day. These are sort of for the average traveler who doesn't go a lot, and spend, let's say, 5 hours there till just after noon or 1 or 2 o'clock, and then leave and do other things.
Can you tell that to your future self? Because this is on recording. I'm going to play this back for you in March.
I said this is for the average traveler who doesn't go a lot.
I'm going to cut that part out.
It's different for frequent travelers.
I'm going to cut that part out.
Frequent travelers, I would say you can spend far less time in the park and do far many more other things.
No.
Or spend more, right?
Yeah, spend more.
For frequent travelers, it's a little bit different. But I still don't think you should spend all day in the parks.
I do when you haven't been for a while.
And I'll say another thing. The other part of this question is, what should you do in the parks?
Do in the parks.
And
everything.
Well, if you're a new sort of traveler, obviously everybody focuses on the rides. Fair enough, right?
Really?
When people think of the parks, all they're thinking about is what ride do I get on? Which line is longest? That's really what Genie Plus and the paid tiers above Plus are all about. But there's so much more to do in the parks, and I often try to get people, I know it's hard if you don't go a lot, but to take a step back and actually appreciate how Disney parks are different than other parks and the other things you can do in the parks that make them really fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's tons of things in each different park that honestly, when I think of the parks at this point, I'm not even thinking about rides for half of them.
That's why I like Genie, the idea of Genie, because it starts pointing out other things, but it doesn't point out the kind of things I'm talking about. And what I'm thinking of are things...
What are you talking about?
Let's say in Magic Kingdom, I'm thinking of things like hidden Pascals in the Corona area.
Castle photos that are perfectly curated months in advance.
Yeah, hidden Mickeys in different areas. Did the episode on the Cinderella Secrets. We talked about food last episode.
More food.
So instead of trying to focus everything on rides, and that's where you really get tired, you're in lines all day, I really think...
But it's still time in the parks.
Yeah, so we're talking about how to spend your time in the parks, right? So in that 5 hours, don't wait in line for 5 hours. That's what I'm getting at. Do some other things. So you got to do a bit of research, but this is where Genie can help a bit in terms of your likes, right? If you like Disney princesses, you might want to find the 5 Cinderella secrets, as I call them, around the castle, because they're cool. They're hidden gems. They're really neat. 90% of the guests, I'm guessing, probably just walk right by this stuff and don't even know it's there.
90%? Really? You think that low?
Maybe even higher. You're right. So there is a lot of magic going on around the parks that make them magic. And take some time to find it. Do a little research ahead of time. Or listen to our show, because we talk about those sorts of things a lot. And spend your time that way. So I would, A, not spend all day in the parks every day. And B, within the parks themselves, I'd say take some time to do some other things.
Oh, see, yeah, I'd say you should spend as much time as possible as you can in the parks, but that doesn't necessarily mean going on all the rides. Because why are you there at a Disney vacation? You're not there to sit in your hotel room and read a book that you brought from home, right? You're there to go and experience the parks, and whether that's going on ride lines all day, which some people like to do, or trying food, or finding hidden things. There's so many things that you should do in the parks, which don't necessarily mean ride, but you should still spend more time in the parks than like 2 to 3 hours, because that's not nearly enough.
Or even leaving time to shop and things like that.
You can shop in the parks too.
For example, that's what I mean, in the parks. So let's say this, for example. Let's say you are on the Park Buster sort of treadmill, and you're in the parks, and you're just ride. And, you get on Haunted Mansion.
Relate.
And you love Haunted Mansion, and then you leave, and you're going to get out, and you're going, okay, what's next on our... And you're going to miss Memento Mori. That great little shop used to be Yankee Trader. It's now the Haunted Mansion-themed gift shop. And there is some really, really cool stuff. One of my favorite themed shops, probably my favorite of all themed shop that's located next to a ride that is themed to the ride. But you'll miss that.
How many shops of that are there?
A lot of them. When you exit Winnie the Pooh, you go into a shop. When you exit Pirates of the Caribbean, you go into a pirate shop. When you exit Splash Mountain, you go into a
You
little.
do?
There's a little shop there.
Really?
Yeah, so that's where that's where all the YouTube
Splash Mountain,
or
the
all
roller coaster.
that's where all the eBay pirates were hawking up their stuff when they
yes.
first announced that change.
The shop at the end of Splash
Meanwhile,
Mountain, the
it'll be
roller
years.
coaster.
Yeah. The flume ride,
The roller
which you
coaster.
clearly lost that bet.
The roller coaster.
Now back to our show. So, how much time should you spend in the parks? Yeah, as much as you can handle, but I would say not more than 5 or 6 hours. I'd say 5 hours.
How long are the parks open? Like 12?
Yeah, roughly. Depends on the park. Some are longer than that. But I also wouldn't say that you can't go back in the evening.
Yeah.
So if you have a park hopper, then I'm going to qualify my answer and say 5 hours at a time.
Yeah.
Don't spend more than that because you just get tired and hot, and especially if you have a large family, right? Everyone's got different stamina usually.
Well, yeah. But like you could go for 5 hours in the morning and then go back to your hotel, have a little lunch, and then go back to a different park in the evening. Do as much as you can without feeling the Disney burnout, which is never a good thing to feel. But because when you're there, you're not there all the time, unless you're local, in which case I'm very jealous of you. But you have to experience as much as you can while you're there because you're probably not going more than 2 or 3 times a year. Like, even if you're the most frequent Disney traveler, you're not going as much as you would probably like to. So while you're there, you can experience all that you can instead of just sitting around doing what you do at home.
Exactly. And the real key to all this is knowing the parks and everything that's in there beyond the rides, and also knowing what's available outside the parks, including at your hotel, depending on which hotel you're staying at. And you talked about sitting in rooms reading a book, but
I do that.
Depending on what kind of room you're in, you may want to spend some time. If you're in an upscale room,
or a Disney bungalow,
or in a bungalow,
suite.
yeah, or a Cascade cabin, or something upscale like that, then you should spend some time to get to know it, I would say.
Honestly, we spent so much time in the bungalow on our most recent visit. I just spent so much time I could honestly design like an exact replica without looking at any photos.
Yeah, and so
That's a terrible
if
analogy,
if
but
you're
you
on
know.
if you're in a 2-bedroom villa or a suite or even in club level somewhere, it is sort of nice to hang around and enjoy your surroundings and not just constantly rushing out the door. That's the way we were when we were in Disneyland Paris and we stayed club level at the Disneyland Hotel. That's a really nice club level area. So
It is.
we did spend a lot of time, not a lot, but we made sure we spent some time exploring it and looking around and seeing all the stuff. So it wasn't
club
just
level.
cramming in the parks all the time. It's worth exploring your resorts or other resorts and doing things outside the park, because the whole Disney magic for me, and I would say to anyone who hasn't visited or not a lot, part of the whole magic is not just the rides. It's really taking in everything else inside the parks and everything else outside the parks, let alone things you mentioned, water parks and Disney Springs.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of stuff to do. And we talk about activities. I mean, it's really endless.
You
More
know-
than you could ever do in a week.
Yeah, and they're not really parks, but the water parks and Disney Springs, I count as honorary parks because they're still like big Disney attraction type things that you should try to hit while you're there that are special specifically to there, which is why I kind of include them in my park extravaganza, spend all the time you can.
Disney
Quotes.
Springs for sure, because it's
Yeah.
free and there's a lot there. Water parks are, first of all, you have to like water parks. They are
Yeah.
paid and it depends on the weather and all that sort of stuff. But Disney Springs, and we've been in there in some downpours, you can do it. You know, you can run
Yeah.
from building to building.
I
Or,
think
or bring umbrellas, and they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
They're pretty good about giving you umbrella bags when you go into the shops if it's raining
Actually,
and
yeah,
stuff
that's
like
true.
that. And towels, like they're all over that kind of stuff. It is Florida, especially in the summer, so rain is a given.
I just always want to savor what the big things are while I'm there. And I think that's a mentality that a lot of people share. And, you know, everyone has something different that they like about each specific park, and that's why they go there. So what do you like about each park? What's like your favorite thing to experience in each park, Dad?
Are you asking me that?
Yes, I'm
Well,
asking you to please enlighten me.
I have a favorite sort of ride or two for each park, so I'll
No, but,
like.
what's your favorite thing to do? If you could only do one thing in each park and or Disney Springs, what would you do?
Walk around and take pictures. That's my favorite thing to do.
You can't just say that for all the parks, though.
It's true, though. Well, but I mean, each one will have a different focus, but...
Okay, well, which focus are you looking for each of the parks?
Well, for Magic Kingdom, I tend to like to explore and look for things that I haven't seen before. Not necessarily hidden Mickeys, just hidden details, like anything all around the park. I like to look at the signs, and, Disney doesn't do anything by accident, so there's so much signage and little markings all over. I like to look at those things and try to figure out what they are, or I'll ask cast members what they mean sometimes and take photos along the way.
Yeah.
Animal Kingdom's a little bit different because it's more Animal Kingdom-like. I do like exploring the sort of nooks and crannies for animals and seeing what's there. The jungle trails and things we don't walk along all that often. So I like doing that. Hollywood Studios is an odd one just because it's so strangely spread out. There's less of that kind of thing to do there, as far as I'm concerned. So Hollywood Studios, for me, is more sort of ride and attraction focused. They do have some good shops. And then Epcot, it's the World Showcase area that I like exploring the most. Because as much as I always say I want to look in each country more, I just never seem to have enough time to do it.
I mean, you've gone so much, so maybe we should make that a priority next time.
We always say that, and then we get there, and we get distracted as much as anybody else does.
Well...
Which is fine.
No,
get distracted, right?
Let's go with that's what happens, and it's not me not wanting to do that and derailing all of your plans.
Okay, so can you do an each park thing?
Yes, I can. Magic Kingdom, I like to take castle pictures. I think they're the most iconic Disney picture you could ever possibly get. It's a castle picture. It can change with time when the castle changes or you change or so many things. And you can just, I want to have, when I get older, just a big mural of all of the castle pictures I've ever taken. And it'll be amazing. And Animal Kingdom, Wilderness Explorers, Hollywood, probably a tough one. I'm going to throw food at Hollywood because they have all food and it's fun to walk around.
Ooh, they have the worst food.
No, are you kidding? They have all of the classic foods, plus they have the Galaxy's Edge, like blue milk stuff.
Yeah, there's some.
Love blue milk.
It's got a little bit better, but
it's a treasure.
As far as each park goes, it would be at the bottom for food.
Oh, no. Epcot would be. And then
Epcot...
Oh,
I'm kidding with World Showcase.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
And then Epcot has the Germany Pavilion and, Werther's. Need I say more? No. And I mean, obviously I like rides at each park, but I'm trying to think outside the box here. What is the other things that make the park special? Because rides are at any theme park. You have to look outside the line.
What about Animal Kingdom?
I said Animal Kingdom.
No, what did you say for it?
Wilderness Explorers.
Oh, right.
I did say that.
You ran over it quickly.
Yes, well, there's not much to say. I mean, Wilderness Explorers, you explore the wilderness, except you can't disturb the animals. But you actually learn quite a bit from Wilderness Explorers, like more than I learned in school about ecosystems.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a little bit different in Disneyland, in California Adventure.
Disneyland
it's self-contained.
Is so fun.
Disneyland's is more like a play area now.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas Animal Kingdom Park is still a learning experience.
Ooh, yeah, and then that's probably what I like best about California Adventure. Either that or Pixar Pier. And then Disneyland Park, I have no idea. What about you?
Well, Disneyland Park is just like the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, except
their
castle is not as good.
No, but there's just a lot of detail to explore because they're just built that way. Their theme is sort of the Disney magic itself. Whereas the other parks have different types of themes, so there's different types of things to look for. And I agree with photos. When I said photos, you dissed me on it. But when I take photos, even Castle, I like to, obviously you're going to have the classic ones. And it changes a lot.
But I only because it was such a general statement.
But I like different angles.
I like taking photos.
Well,
wow, gee, thank you for specifics.
I take lots of photos, but I like to look for different angles that aren't as popular as you tend to see all the time.
That's true.
Social
We've got
feeds.
tons and tons of
photos. So
photos.
I appreciate when all of you listeners out there who take unique angles like I do post them. That's sort of what a different perspective of Disney. That's sort of fun.
Because Disney does plan so much with photos. And what about Disney Springs?
Disney Springs, it's primarily a shopping and dining area. So
yeah. What's your favorite shop and or dining area?
Well, I just like to walk around and look in different ones. We have our favorite shops that we go
Excellent
in.
wrong answer.
We have our favorite shops that we go in a lot, but I've probably only visited less than half for sure of all the shops that are there. We've never done the Cirque du Soleil, which is back, so we should do that at some point.
That's fair. Can I answer now?
Yes, of course.
Ghirardelli. That's the answer. Ghirardelli at Disney Springs is so good, and it's better than any other Ghirardelli for some reason, and I don't know why.
Because the Disney magic surrounds it. Plus, they
just
give you free
tastes-
chocolate when you walk in the shop.
That's true.
But if you're a kid without your parent, you won't get one.
Yeah, I know. What is that?
Well, they don't want kids just going through the door over and over again to fill up on Ghirardelli
Oh,
chocolates.
what? But kids with parents can't just go through the door over
Well,
and
then
over?
they know you're only going to take one. All right. So, to sum up, how much time should you spend in the parks? I'd still go with not all day at a one run.
I would say as much as you can experience to feel the Disney magic.
And while you're there, try to balance the rides, which are super fun, and obviously you want to do them. That's why I think Genie Plus and things are valuable, because you'll get more out of your time, and that'll leave more time to explore
But also,
the rest of the Disney
yeah,
magic.
but it's also fair if you want to spend some time in your room looking at hack videos on how to beat other people at the interactive rides. That is also A-okay.
Oh, you mean the shooting rides,
Yeah.
like Space Ranger Spin and
I
Toy
literally,
Story
I
Mania.
mean, I forget it
there
now.
I don't
but
want to
I-
know all the tips.
But I saw a video once on like all the tips on how to win. I think it was Toy Story Mania, and now I forget because I had planned it. I was gonna win it, and then we didn't go on that.
Well, if you do a VIP tour, like
I was so disappointed.
you went with the guide that one time in California, and he told you all the tips.
Yeah, but I had like a hack video. It was like every single tip you could possibly need to know on how to get a perfect score, and then
on which one, Space Ranger Spin?
no, on Mania.
Oh.
Or not a perfect score. I don't know. But I knew all the tips. I was so ready. And then we didn't go on that ride.
That's like a bonus.
So annoyed. I was going to win for once. But, you know, they're all, yeah. And there's another fun thing to do in the parks is compete with your family.
Oh, yeah.
Very
That
fun.
is always fun.
Yeah.
Compete with your family.
Literally anything possible.
Anything that has a score attached to it.
Yeah, or not even just rides. Make your own competitions. It feels even better when you win at Disney.
And even I don't use Play Disney Parks a lot, that app. I don't know if they're still doing it, but
I tried. I just don't know how to.
yeah, I don't like to spend too much time on the apps because now we have Genie and all that stuff. But I do think Genie's good to help you balance your park time.
Yeah, you're like the most vocal spokesperson of Genie. Of course, we won't be needing Genie because we have me. But, you know, some people enjoy it.
All right. Before we wrap up now, let us get to what is happening with this show starting with next week's episode 100. We are changing up the format. Up until now, for the last 2 years, we have been loosely calling ourselves the 30 Minutes of Disney Magic because we try to keep our shows to a half an hour max. So anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes typically we range. But what we noticed over the past couple of years is our most popular shows without fail are the ones where we're actually commenting on topical Disney news and offering tips and advice based on our traveling there a
or
lot.
recounts of our most recent vacations for the current up-to-date Disney news.
Yeah. So we are retooling the show. We are taking it down to 15 minutes of magic, bite-sized chunks, so you can listen to it nice and quick, very focused with tips and advice and our thoughts on current weekly news. So
Yes.
if you want to know what's new each week coming out of Disney, direct from Disney, and how it will affect you on your Disney vacation, that is going to be the focus of most of our shows, starting with 100
Because
next week.
everyone wants to know current Disney news. It's all very exciting. They release stuff every day, pretty much. There's always something new to talk about because who doesn't love talking about Disney?
And as we mentioned recently, there's a lot of sites that just post Disney news. Well, I find that rather useless. I want someone to comment on it. So, as in any news, so what does that mean to me?
Yeah, and I like the sites that share an opinion about the news rather than just basically forwarding me the link to the news
Right.
itself.
And if you know one thing about us, we share our opinions and we don't always agree.
But if I just want the news, I'm just going to go to DisneyWorld.com. I don't need you to basically copy and paste the article.
Yeah, there's too many of those.
It's not informative.
So we're going to take that news and we are going to put a practical, real-life spin on it that you should consider with the news. So anyway, You'll see how it all shapes out. We have some fantastic new intro and outro music. So enjoy the the last one of this episode because we have some really cool new Disney-inspired music to mark the occasion of episode 100 coming next week on the Disney Travel Podcast.
And we can't wait to share it with you.
All right, everyone. So thanks for listening. We will see you again next week with our new and magically inspired Disney News podcast show. Still 1923 Main Street, the Disney Travel Podcast, of course. And let us know what you think about it after we launch it. We'd love to get your feedback as always. So follow along on social media at 1923 Main Street. We will see you next week and have a magical day.
Bye-bye.